I held my tongue, even though that was not really a good look, okay? You can't really go hard like that and stake the reputation of you and everybody on this and then like get it wrong really severely over and over.
Bro, she's actually too anti-Semitic for them. Everybody's Jewish. She's this crazy conspiracy theorist. Jews. You know them. Some of you may even love them. I don't have any Jews in my life as far as I know. My last girlfriend, she was like 12% Ashkenazi Jew. So that was pretty cool, right? So that I thought that was interesting. You know who else thinks Jews are interesting? Candace Owens. Candace Owens has been going off the deep end after she got fired from the Daily Wire for her insane comments that they couldn't even support. After all the horrible things that the Daily Wire has said and promoted, somehow Candace Owens was able to trample over all of it and reach a level of stupidity, bigotry, and evil that not even the Daily Wire could co-sign anymore. After being fired and becoming a NEET for a little while, Candace Owens disappeared. We talked about her getting fired a little while ago, but ever since then, she had been relatively quiet. But recently, she had come back, and she's come back with a vengeance, not just for the Daily Wire, not just for Conservative Inc. that had abandoned her, not just for the Democrats and gay people and people left of center, and people who are not Christian, but Jews and the Jewish cabal, in her words, who have controlled the country, in her opinion, and who have brought evil upon the American people, who must be stopped. Anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that she's been peddling in her head on Twitter, but now on her YouTube channel and more, now that she's come back and has leaned fully into a seeming to be like a never-ending mental health episode that is her deep dive into the deep pits of anti-Semitism. Now, we haven't talked about her much because she left, but now that she's back and has been posting more content than ever, I think it's a great time to finally catch up with Candace and see what she's been up to. She released a video not too long ago where she was sitting at her desk in her study in her home in Tennessee, where she explained that the Jews are apparently coming after her. And people need to wake up because this is apparently not normal. By not normal, she means the conspiracy theories in her head, and not the fact that she needs to take her pills. Take a look at this.
Do you think it's normal, by the way, that basically every person who speaks about Israel has to basically say a statement that's like, I don't want to get killed?
What? Actually, I've been listening and reading a lot of stuff about Israel these last 10, 11 months that the war has been going on. But I actually haven't seen that. What has Netanyahu sent you an email saying that he thinks that there's a Hamas tunnel under your home in Tennessee? Is that right? Is that what happened? No, personally, I haven't seen that.
like literally, because speaking about it, people are like, Candace, beef up your security.
Also, just so you know, I did not have this sped up. So here's my video speed up thing. This is one time speed. She is actually having a mental health breakdown. Here, she's genuinely having just a disassociation episode. She's literally tweaking. This is not sped up. This is just how she acts now. She has actually very visibly deteriorated since the last time we saw her.
Literally, because speaking about it, people are like, Candace, beef up your security. That's not fucking normal. Excuse my language, but that is not normal. Okay, it's not normal that people have to think about their security because, and by the way, it's not normal that then the way that you get comfortable with it is you're like, they shot JFK in an open car, so there's not, he's a sitting president. Obviously my security doesn't really matter. If they want me, they're going to get me. That's not a normal thought process to have. We don't have that about any other country in the world except for the one that, took over ours. And that's the truth, okay? We are an occupied nation. And if it's going to take women having to speak up and say that to make permission, to give permission to men to do the same, then I'm happy to be the first person, okay? I just want to be clear. Anything happens to me, blame the Zionists. Like 1000% blame the Zionists. Like let that be my parting word.
Okay, so anyways, this is her recording a video saying this is her I'm not suicidal video because she thinks the Jews are going to execute her. Just Oh, this didn't go over well, obviously. Her grand comeback. This didn't really go over very well. Yeah, this bitch is tweaking. This woman is losing her mind. With many conservatives from across the aisle, from rank and file Republicans to light conservatives, and all of them had to come out to be like, this is insane. Because once again, if you guys didn't know, Candace Owens is one of the largest conservative content creators in the country. She has 6 million followers. She has 6 million subscribers on YouTube and gets hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views a video. She is, at this moment in time, she's getting more pull than Ben Shapiro, than Matt Walsh, than not as much as Tucker Carlson, as far as I know, but she's really up there. She is a name that if you know a conservative, they know her name. Candace Owens is a large figure, and so obviously her being, you know, zooted out of her gourd on anti-Jewish conspiracies is going to trickle down. That's the real trickle down. It's the stupidity trickle down, and it rolls downhill like piss. That's the real trickle down for conservatives, and they don't want to have to wear their rain boots to free themselves from the sloshing of Candace piss dribbling down from the heavens where she stands compared to them. So this person had to release a statement. Even Fox News contributor Sarah Carter had to come out and had to disavow. I've known Candace for some time, and I admired her work on Blexit, and had valued her voice in the conservative movement. Cringe. Sadly, something seems to have gone wrong with Candace, so she is now engaging in spreading vile and vicious conspiracy theories about Jewish people. Pro-Trump influencer Gad Sayad, something like that, had to drop in and be like, what happened to this woman? A few years ago, I hosted her on my show and she seemed reasonable and composed. Spoiler alert, she was always crazy. She just happened to jump onto another crazy. Chris Rufo. Chris Rufo is the guy who's actually a part of in conservative intellectual Thunderdome, the conservative intellectual think tank. This guy is actually the guy who popularized conservatives being against CRT and critical race theory and DEI. This is the guy who helped popularize that inside of the conservative zeitgeist. So he actually has a pretty decent pull, even though he's not super big online. He's mostly on Twitter. The work he does is kind of silently in the shadows, causing trouble for the American populace and the world as a whole. Chris Rufo even had to chime in and said, I think part of it is algorithm chasing. He sees a conservative saying something crazy and he's like, I know that. That's grifting right there. Paradoxically, when there was censorship on Twitter, she knew how to be provocative and stay within the edge. Now the boundaries are gone and anti-Semitism drives negative attention. She fell into the trap and there's no way out. Basically what he's saying is that Elon Musk turned Twitter into a loudspeaker for the most vile, hate-filled messages on the internet, outside of like dark web places that you can barely even mention, that only people who are sitting on FBI, CIA watch lists frequent in their spare time know about, or spend any real time there, honestly. So this is not the only time. Chris Rufo is a part of a Florida college board now. But basically what happened, well, remember, DeSantis and Florida is ground zero for conservative, reactionary culture war politics. Ron DeSantis is the culture war governor. That's how he's governed. Like how literally what's popular on Twitter, on conservative Twitter, is the policy that he would like to implement. That's why when that Washington Post reporter Taylor Lorenz exposed who Libs of TikTok was, Chaya Raichik, that woman that Ron DeSantis personally reached out to Chaya and offered her refuge in the governor's mansion in Florida because he literally gets his legislative agenda from fucking Twitter. But that's a topic for another day, honestly. But thanks for bringing that up, because that is kind of wild. Remember how the other day we talked about these new up and coming mom and pop shop child sex trafficking addicts and international pimps, Tristan and Andrew Tate. She had interviews with both of them because actually, if you didn't know, which is also a topic for another day, Candace Owens' husband, George Farmer, is a man who owned Parler and who tried to pawn it off to Kanye West when he was having a mental health episode to get money from him since Parler was failing and he was getting into conservative politics. He thought he could scam this mentally ill man out of millions of dollars and leave Parler in the dust. This guy actually has been best friends with Andrew Tate even before he started sex trafficking children and moved to Romania to have sex with children. And so she's always, since at least 2019, she's had an in with the Tate bros. And remember that video that I just showed you of her talking in her office, having that like mental health episode? There's something that I didn't point out to you that some of you with keen eyes might have been able to notice, and that's this right here. Right behind her is this picture on the wall. Right, and I want to pull this up really quick. Because this is actually important, and not just because it's just some random picture. It's not. This is actually a picture of her husband, George Farmer, and Andrew Tate, hung up on her wall in her study, in her office, behind her at all points in time. She is very close with the Tate bros. She knows about the inner workings of how him and his brother pimp out, assault, beat, threaten, and kidnap vulnerable women all across Eastern Europe, Eastern and Central Europe. She knows this. She is friends with them. He is a family friend. He is literally invited to the cookout, and they actually have each other's numbers. This is something that she knows very intimately. And since now they're both content creators, they can both farm each other for content. Now that Tristan and Andrew are on the run for child sex trafficking, the devout Christian Candace Owens decided that this would be a perfect time to invite both of them onto her YouTube channel to discuss the most important topics of the day, like Jewish cabals running the world and how Stalin was a Jew who was bent on destroying America or something. Take a listen to this.
I have a theory, which came from my buddy Dave Smith, that, part of the reason that you and your brother are being so attacked is because you represent a real threat to what you guys term the Matrix.
Yes.
If by Matrix you mean age of consent laws, then yeah, I guess they're being attacked for going against the Matrix.
Spoiler alert, I'm not a human trafficker. That doesn't make any sense.
And what's actually funny is that
oh, that's crazy, because I almost confuse you for one, man.
Everything that they accuse people of doing is what they are.
Oh.
And this gets into, I need to do a full episode on this, but like they accuse Michael Jackson of pedophilia because they are the pedophiles.
They are pedophiles.
Like the media is literally an ecosystem that was built to protect pedophiles.
Yes.
Right. And once you start realizing, like we said before we got live here, thatAlex Jones was right. When he started speaking about the satanic worshiping elites that are all pedophiles. I remember first hearing Alex Jones being like, this man is like
insane. Really? Like they're just politicians. I mean, they're not that bad.
How could that be happening?
Turns out he was completely right about everything.
I think it's part of the reason why we keep plundering the Middle East is because they want no relics of history, because that allows these Marxists, because that's who they are, to rewrite it. And the reality is that America got overtaken by Marxism. It happened in waves, like the 1848ers that came and established. Pfizer family was in that. The people who
what she means is Jewish people.
Armand Hammer, the actor, is named Arm and Hammer for a reason.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, it is known that his father was, or great, however many grandfathers, was considered Stalin and Lenin's favorite Jew, right? Which then kind of gets into the question of the media, who for a very long time tried to convince us that Stalin and Vladimir Lenin were anti-Semitic, and then I learned, wait, Stalin was married to...
Yes, they were literally a part of the Jewish cabal that, and credit
when I
to
talk
your,
about crushing history,
Yeah.
where if you even say that, which I'm saying it because I
Yes.
looked into it and I found a friend who understands Georgian, and they're like, everybody knows that Stalin was Jewish, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
but
Americans don't know this.
but Candace,
Yeah, Americans don't know this because everything is a lie. This is the type of stuff that you would. This is the type of stuff that you say. It's like people. It's cartoonish, the level of conspiracy brain stupidity that this is. But when you open your mind to these types of it's possible to have your mind so open that your brain falls out. And when you open your mind to these types of like weird conspiracy theories with no real backing, because you believe that the government has done something wrong once, and so that must mean that obviously, moving on from that the other things that people say that the government did were also wrong or bad or were connected in some way, and so it's just like this cascading effect of motivated reasoning, where you believe something and then once you believe it, you want to believe that you're right. And so since you need to believe that you're right, you need to believe that the other things connected to that's right. And then once you do that, you believe that the people who you surround yourself with, because you want to be around people who think the same as you to feel like you have some sort of community, then those people then become sounding boards for you. And then so if they believe something, then you're more likely to believe it because you trust them, because they believe what you believe, and we're all right. So if they must believe that, then that must hold some truth to it too. Because I trust them. My friend understands Georgian. My friend who told me that Stalin was a Jew has a family from Georgia. So obviously he must be right? And we just aren't told that. Why? Because the Jews must be. And then you just, and like everything has to wrap back into itself. This like overarching a conspiracy that goes throughout the history and the ages of this group that has this non-binary force of evil that's been working against this whole time. It can't simply just be sometimes there are a couple of coincidences and sometimes we're just wrong about things. That can't be the case because I'm right and everybody else is wrong. And the people who I don't like telling me that I'm wrong, they can't be right because they're wrong, right? So the things that they don't say, so the things that they say are wrong have to be right. It's a sort of like reactionary. Somebody who I don't like said something was wrong. So I have to take the opposite position just reactively without thinking, because if they're wrong, then because if I think that they're always wrong, then I want to be right. And so I have to take the opposite position just instantly without thinking much about it. It's just very stupid. It's very dumb. And it's a way for people who don't actually engage in much genuine critical thinking, or analysis of why they believe what they believe, but they love the aesthetics of being intelligent, fall for this type of stuff. Candace Owens is not a smart person. Candace Owens was always somebody who was very, very not talented, but she can jump onto this or that, and she can get incredibly impassioned about things that she dives into. And so this is just her next little special interest. She had a special interest back in the day where she was a part of she was a part of Gamergate, but she was one of the women who were attacked during Gamergate, where she was really into feminism, but she didn't really have some big, broad ideological she didn't have some like deeper understanding of feminism, and she just kind of threw herself out there and was cringe and got attacked for it, but then got groomed into conservatism, got groomed into hyper-religious orthodoxy, and theocratic conservative thought processes by her husband, who once again is friends with a child sex trafficker. That's how she got this interview with Tristan Tate to begin with, who then radicalized her and groomed her into becoming the person that we see here today. It was very obvious. It was very obvious a pipeline that she was shoved down, that anybody could see coming, but nobody could really save her from, because all the people who had dominion over her life were the ones praising her her constantly for being more and more crazy. And the guys at the Daily Wire knew that she could be a nice little cash cow, and they could take advantage of the situation that she was in to prop her up as a content creator. But then it came back to bite them, and then she turned into this. And then she just turned into this, because why wouldn't you turn into this? Every single thing that those conservatives at the Daily Wire and everything believe, well, obviously, in time, boil down to this. Like, a lot of conservatives' ideology is always 7 clicks to Hitler. If I'm going to be honest with you, their huge disdain for postmodernism and feminism and Marxism, and then wanting to stop cultural Bolshevism, and feminism and women's empowerment, and being anti pagan and anti like other religious groups, and pagan and anti another religious group, and anti-atheist, and hyper Christian, conservative and reactionary, being afraid of change, being afraid of new things. Obviously, this would lead to you forming these types of conspiracies. I mean, being anti-globalism, about them using their power to globalize the world and send. That's why immigrants are coming in. Obviously, it leads back to Nazism, because you going so far, so deep into this reactionary conservative rabbit hole, is how those people got to Nazism to begin with. Nazism didn't come out of nowhere. Fascism, Nazi, it didn't pop out of nowhere. It didn't pop out of nowhere. In many ways, it's the ultimate promise of conservatism. In many ways, it's the ultimate promise of conservatism. The conservatism that the conservatism that grounds itself in authority, in knowing your place, in the theory of the cruel world, that everybody else is out to get themselves, and we are all born evil, and we can only fight to be good, and everybody is out there for themselves. And you can see in a lot of these other people where. You can see this in Matt Walsh specifically, where he is incredibly draconian, and Michael Knowles as well, incredibly draconian in their thought processes and ideals. Who thinks that we need a strong authoritarian administrative state to execute dissidents, to enforce orthodoxy, and to punish dissent. And to punish deviants who deviate from a already pre-established bubble that people should act in, else they need to be disposed of. We see it all the time. I mean, we also see it in their love of the we also see in their love of the death penalty. They love the death penalty. I mean, even Michael Knowles said he wants to go back to like the 1800s. Their hatred of women's empowerment, their newfound just scratching at the foundation of the civil rights movement and the 19th Amendment. Many conservatives, even including like Charlie Kirk, even floating the idea of gunning down migrants who cross the border to seek asylum, just instantly shooting them in the head the second we see them. Like, these people were very clearly marching to using cultural issues to march towards a goal, and we've seen this goal before. We've seen it. Okay, we've seen it before. This hyper authoritarian, off the back of hyper religiosity, this faux populism, this populism disseminated down by millionaires and billionaires. The guy who's supposed to be the anti deep state, anti-ruling class, owning class billionaire, Donald Trump being the forefront of the idea of the work of the guy who's going to save the working man from the globalist and them doing bad things to people like us. The massive spike in chauvinism and nationalism. I mean, this is just what it is. Obviously, this would lead down to this, obviously, because at the end of the road of all these conspiracy theories and all this them posting is anti-Semitism every single time, racism and anti-Semitism every single time, every single time. Like a couple of things: racism, anti-Semitism, and and misogyny. Just that those three will always be together at the end of the road. That people will drop down to. We've seen like, you know, Pearl Davis drop into all of that type of stuff, including the misogyny as well. Candace Owens has a very a rigid and draconian idea of women's place in society as well, and she hopped onto everything like that, and now onto the anti-Semitism as well, right? Because you always have to have this overarching narrative of how you need to go through society, and obviously the further back you look into society, the more restrictive, draconian, deadly, and authoritarianism, authoritative, and forceful those states become. And so obviously the further you look back into the past, the more you're going to get ideas like this. It's not surprising. Sorry for the little yap session, because we have more to get to as well. This is not what the whole of the discussion is supposed to be about. We're going to drop off this weird thing here. Mind you, we didn't even get to really touch on the idea that she said two people were Jews. She said Stalin was Jewish, and also the guy who was the founder of Turkey. She said that guy was also Jewish, and they're working together to destroy America and Christianity and whatever, right?
And I feel like they've had to do a deal with certain interests to survive, unfortunately.
Here it comes.
And it's scary.
Obviously, I've earned the full ire of the mainstream media, and I don't care, because for me, and that offer was there. I mean, it was very clear to me that this is the one issue. If you don't talk about, well, you can maintain a comfortable life for you and your kids. But I just didn't like how many times I kept finding in the history of Israel and in the president of Israel defense for pedophiles. It just didn't work for me. Like, you know, Zionists were so hardcore about Israel.
Randomly, dude, you say the word they once, and then Jew? She's like a dog, dude. Dude. Like, the word Jew is like you going pss, 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 pss.
In the history of Israel and in the president of Israel defense for pedophiles. It just didn't work for me. Like, you know, that Zionists were so hardcore about Israel, were defending. And I pressed an accidental button when I started speaking about Sigmund Freud. The Freud family created propaganda. You know, Edward Bernays, the Freud family is what created PR.
This is deep. This is just so you know, this is deep cut anti-Semitism. Like, she's bringing up stuff from like 1800s anti-Semitism, but she believes that like the Jews have been working against Christians since like the dawn of for like 2000 years now. Just so you know. So she's, you know, like the 2 months when she was gone, she was like spending every single day in the trenches. Only if she was reading JJK or something instead of weird anti-Jewish 4chan posts in that 2 months. I think she would have come back as a better person.
His PR firms in the world, and they just keep coming up with scandals. Clement Freud file, Sigmund Freud, his father pedophile, defending his friend William Fleece, pedophile. And when,
just so you know, once again, like I know I'm saying a lot, but like Andrew Tate, the guy who she's talking about, all these PDFs doing all these bad things, is literally a guy who was just indicted for trafficking a minor from England to Romania.
These were people that were weapons dealers and drug dealers that then started Hollywood, right? They started Hollywood. Charlie Chaplin, who was under one of their thumbs. We know that a lot of these people in our government are being blackmailed. I wonder why. I personally want to hear my conspiracy theorist. I think pornography
that wasn't your conspiracy yet? Wait, she said, you want to hear my conspiracy theory? Bitch, what have we been listening to for the last like 5 minutes? she said, oh, wait. And she's like, don't think I'm crazy now. I got a conspiracy theory for you. What? Chat, just so you know, this is the result of grooming. She said you ain't seen nothing. This shit ain't nothing to me, man.
Websites are basically, they're able to figure out what your demented interests are. So these people, they're making you more and more.
Anybody up enjoying the demented interest?
Perverse, more and more perverse. Suddenly you're watching some weird stuff, and then they got you watching some 12-year-old girl, whatever it is. Boom, you're under their control.
So let me see if I get this right. You watch porn, you then watch kinkier stuff, and then one day you wake up, boom, 17 terabytes of CP. Is she speaking from experience or something? Does she know someone like this? Judges, you see, they made me like the CP. I had no control over it. I couldn't help myself. Okay, yeah, that's why we're putting you in jail, buddy.
Boom, you're under their control, and I think this is what Jeffrey Epstein, all of this stuff is about, getting men who would be in positions of power to acquiesce to some like pedophilic pornography, and then they're under their control. I really believe.
So is she saying that Pornhub funnels men into CP as a sort of chum bucket hat mind control technique? That I think I will leave it off there for now. I'm just gonna leave that there. And some people may be like, Shark, you can just go on and debunk that. I'm actually not going to personally debunk that. I'm really not. The reason for why is because I just don't think I need to, because I think instead of me being a big voice on this, you can hear the Nazi king himself, Nick Fuentes, who actually debunks her himself. A guy who has actually made his career anti-Semitism, racism, and misogyny. This guy has even come out against Candace Owens specifically for the claims that she's making. She has become so anti-Semitic, conspiracy pilled that she has turned Nick Fuentes woke in the eyes of anti-Semites. He actually has to be the voice of reason in the Nazi community because Candace Owens has gone that far off the deep end. And I'm not joking. This is him on his own show telling you himself.
She didn't deal in the expert. She didn't deal in the guy. She rips all my talking points. She doesn't deal me in. And then she makes all the rookie mistakes.
So yeah, so what he's saying is that he's really upset that he hasn't been able to be brought onto her her YouTube channel to be able to talk about all the anti-Semitism and stuff. So one thing that you'll know is that she actually hasn't spoken to Fuentes, even though she is friends with some of his lieutenants and admirals and lieutenants. Even though she uses a lot of his talking points, absolutely, he's like you're jacking my style, but you won't give me a piece of the pie. You're building this anti-Semitic kingdom for yourself, and you won't even let me in the door. You drop the bridge and you throw me to the moat. You throw me to the alligator-filled moat, and he's upset for he's not able to get the clout off of his ideas that he believes that she's helping try to make mainstream, but also he's making real anti-Semites, like real Nazis like himself, real anti-Semites like himself look stupid for being juvenile, for being unmatured in her anti-Semitic beliefs as well. He'll explain it here himself.
She gets the facts wrong. She backtracks, but she wanted the spotlight. She didn't want the liability. She was coming for our thing, trying to be an edgelord. And she thought that if she gave a couple of acknowledgments to the Groypers that, she could get Classics Groyps to retweet her, but she doesn't have to give me the acknowledgement that is really deserved. We could have done a big collaboration. She could have been, and she didn't even have to acknowledge me publicly. I could have been giving her talking points or information behind the scenes. She was uninterested in that. And now I'm kind of out. So I unfollowed her on Twitter today. She never followed me back, by the way, which is, just so.
Yeah, he's real mad he didn't get it. He's real mad he didn't get the piece of the pie. He is fuming that he has not been able to get his credit for helping spread all this anti-Semitism. He's like, what the fuck, dude? I've done too much for you. Where's my piece? Come on, deal me in. Let me get a piece. I'm so hungry. I mean, after being banned from almost everything, I mean, he's been banned from PayPal. He has his credit cards banned and everything. He's on he's on no flight list. My boy's struggling out here. He needs his dough when he can get it, and being taken advantage of like this, it's unspeakable.
She gets all the details wrong about that. And then she says Stalin was Jewish. Stalin was not Jewish. And then she says Ataturk was secretly Jewish. Ataturk was not secretly Jewish. But I didn't say anything. I said, whatever. I said, oh, well, not everyone's perfect. I said, yeah, it's not really a good look, but, she's learning. I said she's going to get on the ball eventually. So I didn't say anything. I held my tongue, even though that was not really a good look. Okay. You can't really go hard like that and stake the reputation of you and everybody on this and then get it wrong really severely over and over. She's talking about, all this stuff that like it just doesn't even really make any sense. But then late,
bro, she's actually too anti-Semitic for them. He's like you everything she says about Jewish people is just so wrong. How is this happening? Everybody's Jewish. She's this crazy conspiracy theorist. Who's this lady? Some crazy conspiracy lady who thinks the Jews are doing everything and are so conspiracy minded. This is why you guys have to be more grounded and ideological. This is why you got to do more thinking, okay? Like you can't just run out into the races and think that you can just you're gonna give us Nazis a bad name. She's giving the anti-Semites a bad name. Come on, it's a bad look. We all got to clean up her mess after she does this. Come on, guys. You really do hate to see it. Rookie mistake. He did literally say rookie mistake. She's making like rookie anti-Semitic mistakes. Candace Owens is not ready for prime time. She is not ready for prime time, he says. She still needs it's underbaked. You stick the toothpick in and it comes out wet.
Lately, she's been saying this Frankist thing. And I'm going to put something out. I'm not sure exactly when, but I think it's going to be a big collaboration. We're going to talk about this Frankist lie. And the difference between me and her, one, I'm a really good researcher. Two, I really know what the fuck I'm talking about because I've been doing this a long time. It's one of the things you learn.
Yeah, he's an old man in this anti-Semitic game. This shit ain't nothing to me, man. He's been round the Nazi block, and it's just something that like greenhorns heard she's too wet behind the ears, man. Like she ain't ready for prime time, and he's actually going to release a Candace Owens anti-Semitic debunk like call out video on her with the rest of his lieutenants on why she's wrong and giving the Nazi community a bad name. They're gonna listen. She's sending the Nazi community back to 1945, and like they can't take that, man. They were on the cusp of so much greatness. This can't be happening to us. I think it's just kind of wild. This is what kind of blew my mind, is just how dumb, conspiracy minded, groomed and ridiculous Candace Owens is, that even the orthodox Nazis can't even sign on to the stuff that she's saying anymore. Like they can't even hold their tongue for how absolutely mind-numbingly brain dead this person is. And I'm not saying that they're good people. I'm just saying like they also believe things that are lies, that are untrue, that are ridiculous. They also believe in these types of conspiracy theories as well. But it's just a highlight that even the group that she should be pandering to, even they understand how wrong that she is. Even they understand that she's falling into motivated reasoning pitfalls that are just simply incorrect, that he even has to come back and fact check. And obviously there's a level of greed and jealousy and like bad blood there, because he didn't get dealed into all the anti-Semitism bucks that she's been raking in off of taking his ideas. Listen, I'm gonna tell you, dog, like they're not your ideas. Like they're not this whole Nazi thing. It ain't new. It ain't new. Like he's just taking ideas from that one guy who didn't get into painting school, and he's taken a bunch of stuff from some random religious leaders back in the goddamn 500s or something. This all just theft to these conservatives. Over and over again, just recycling the same garbage to put a new spin on it. Just this new crop likes to put an undercut and a suit on it, the same way the guys before them like to put like Catholic robes on it. It's just never ending cycle of curses that these people subject us to. But I just think it was a little funny to go over how even the people who've fallen into the traps that they've laid can't even get their own stupidity right. You can't even be wrong correctly. Doesn't that really say something about someone? Makes a lot of sense that she's a NEET now, huh?